you needed a Tatum, 50-pointer to steal a game in this series, probably, right?
Yeah, but did you ever feel that was going to happen in Brooklyn, though? Sure. I never got that feeling, especially after we saw, the intimidation factor in game one. Look, people can say what they want about Jayson Tatum as a player and, where his effort and his mindset is at, but you can't say that when it comes to him against Durant, toe-to-toe, that he wasn't one, obviously Durant dominated him, but at the same time, you just saw Tatum sort of take a step back. It was almost as if like he was amazed by, or at least he was overwhelmed by the greatness.
Yeah, as long as they swap jerseys.
One-on-one matchup. Yeah. He's never been in this spot before. At least not this Tatum. Going up against the top three, arguably the greatest scorer of all time.
Name me a player right now who's absolutely an assassin. Okay, who's got that killer instinct. And early in their career, turtled at the challenge.
At the challenge?
Not turtle.
Meaning, like, how many of the guys who right now you might point to immaturity, bad decision making in certain
probably
things.
Davis.
And some people who had a killer instinct, which Anthony Davis, is not a killer. Okay, he's not. He's riding.
He won the finals.
He's riding coattails. Okay, he's not. He's absolutely not.
I was thinking Paul George. Remember those years with Paul George, like. He had those big games sometimes, but when it came down the stretch, sometimes he would get ice cold a bit.
Paul George had a horrendous playoff streak, but he hasn't proven that he's anything different yet. Paul George might still have that label of a guy who's a bit of a choker.
Right.
I'm asking you, of the great players who you point to and say ice water in his veins, rises to the challenge of the big moment. Did any of those guys turtle? Like Tatum's turtling right now, early stages of the career. So, because you can say, give him a couple of years, but I don't know going backwards that you have that. Okay, if somebody put Embiid. Embiid's not bad. We'll see how he does in the playoffs here. But he also didn't fold. He was a one-man band last year, and he's kind of off on an island.
It was 8-1 though through 2 series.
Yeah. However, there's not a lot of them. So like this idea that years and time are going to solve things, I might be foolish.
What about Durant?
Yeah, but you can't just overlook the 50-point, 60-point performances or a couple of those stellar performances in the bubble last year.
Guys, we're not saying good. We're saying whether they played with balls. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying guys didn't get better as players in their career. In the chat here, guys who showed no balls and then all of a sudden found them later. I don't know that there's tons of examples of that. Usually that's a thing that you have early and you're working through some other things, which is learning the game and getting more mature, but you're tough, right? The toughness is the thing that people are concerned with Tatum.
Right. Yeah.
Is someone saying Kawhi? Kawhi was a champion like his first freaking year.
Yeah, man.
I said Durant.
He was about that life.
They were on some good teams. He was on some good teams, in his early seasons with, Westbrook, Harden, obviously.
He made the finals. The tricky
Green.
thing, too, is Tatum was on some really good teams through his first few years, and those teams thrive in part because of him. Now, he wasn't storming them through, although last year he was the driving force on the way to the East Finals. But you always had that thing where you could point to other guys who were involved in doing things that got them there. I do think largely he's shown that he can drive a team deep into the postseason with the right pieces around him. It's just this year was a massive failure in terms of being able to raise up pieces around him as that number one. So that's what you have to question here. And we've asked this time and time again throughout this season.
It's just softness. You don't want to see a guy quit. I'm not saying a guy.
I don't even think it's softness.
A moment is too big for him. There's a different story. I'm talking about watching him in this series say, nah, these guys are better and kind of fold up. You don't want to see that ever. That's not a good trait.
No, you don't want to see that.
That's all I'm saying.
Are we saying that's what's happening? Are we waiting until at least like the series?
I think he's just
out?
playing bad. I don't think he's cowering out and, who knows what happened there in the third quarter when he walked away, but he's just playing bad. And we've seen him play bad before. These are 2 bad games in a row from him. Really,
I've triggered some people in the chat. You can't say bad things about Tatum. Go screw, honestly. Give me a break. Give me a break.
You know that.
Give me a break.
Hey,
you can't criticize Tatum. Give me a break.
And everyone's sleeping on Jalen. Come on, where you been, John? That's
the other thing I'll say is, I think the Nets are probably able, or any team is probably able to make it difficult on Tatum right now.
Yeah, they have Durant on him.
And there's just not a lot of the Celtics are like we just said, they'll let Tristan Thompson eat down low. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the recipe for success. So they're almost like baiting other players, like Marcus Smart. Yeah, he went off in the third quarter, but they're like baiting other guys to try to take over.
Which
Kemba
is
Walker
you should do. Right.
Right. Kemba Walker can, go out and score 30, but if, Tatum is limited to 15, like the Celtics aren't going to come even close to winning, but they'll just focus on limiting Tatum and they know that they can win the game.
Yeah.
So
again,
I'm not bailing Tatum out, but I'm also not going to say that, he's just, not invested
I'm
or
not
playing it.
The question is Tatum an alpha? You see the 50-point game and everyone's like, ooh, points, and it's great. 60s. Oh my God. When he catches fire, it's unreal. Is he an alpha? Is he the guy who leads you to a championship? You don't want to see you don't want to see entire series like this where if he goes 4 games laying an egg one after the other just because it's an uphill battle, that's not a great look. Okay. So you want to see him bounce back here and do something.
Yeah, John, this is something he's never faced before, though. Like I'm not trying to cut him too much slack here, but I mean, like,
we get to see how the rest of the league looks against Brooklyn too.
Like, just look at his basketball career. I mean, we talked about facing adversity, and we talked about how this is pretty much the first year where people are like, okay, this is Tatum's team. That's the narrative now, and
it was a horrible year.
He's up against 3 Hall of Famers, and like. I just think he's almost trying to be the smarter player, whereas when he tries to be the aggressive player and he's not getting the calls, he's just chirping at the rep. He's a little bit out of his game, John, but I almost think like he's trying to be a smarter player compared to trying to be someone who just goes 2 for 20 like he had before. He did that last year twice or something close to it.
What are we going to say?
Bad performance last year because he wasn't afraid to keep taking shots. Like, I don't think that's part of his game. I don't think there's fear. I don't think that's it. I think he's just overwhelmed right now. It's like an nightmare.
I agree with that, Joe Sway. No, John, think of it like this.
He's never been on the wrong end of like not even an AAU blowout. Like, he's never been through this. Like,
well,
what if you
better get used to it?
Never mind Bobby? A Duke. He never,
What was the dude? Where's Joe Sway? We're supposed to just sit here and like, oh, he has to learn how to lose. Like, no. What are we even talking about? Like, these guys need to be killers. Now, that being said, see you, Bobby.
I mean,
doesn't
every killer have to learn how to lose? Which killer doesn't lose?
But that being said, the only thing he has on his side right now is age. He has age on his side. He's very young. I don't know how many alphas there were in the history of the league at age 22. So I'm not saying that he's an alpha, but I'm also not saying that he doesn't have the ability to become one. I think both things can be true. We know that he's talented enough to be a number 1 player on a team. That's not breaking news, but it takes more than, I think just, those games that remind you how talented he is. He has to be able to consistently put that, level of play together, and you have to be able to do it in the playoffs at the end of the day. That being said, nobody expected the Celtics to really do too much here against the Nets, but you want to see them compete, at the very least. So that goes back to what John was saying, that, you don't want to see a player turtle. And this is before the eye injury. This isn't saying, oh, he got poked in the eye and he left the game. This is saying, where was he even leading up to that? And, the way he was limited, whether it was his fault or whether it was credit to the Nets, him sucking is an automatic loss. And it's not just a loss, it's an automatic blowout.
Well, what I was going to say before I jumped out there is we have to see what Brooklyn ultimately becomes, because we have no clue right now. This could be the Warriors or something greater when we think about what this team is. And if they end up going 12-0 through the East, are we going to be that bummed about how Tatum looked here, how the Celtics looked here? It's going to be the Bucks, the Sixers, and everybody else.
What are we looking for here at the end of the day? What are you looking for out of this? Just some fight, right?
Yes.
It's that simple.
That's it.
So watching again, we talk about like leadership works a couple different ways. Like not leading has not leading when you are the de facto leader or best player of a team has ripple effects. Okay. So watching Tatum shut it down isn't great for the rest of everybody. Watching the team not pass the ball, not move the ball around, not play defense, not get out on shooters. That's not great. Like the whole entire team just didn't really play today. They didn't really show up there. So it's incumbent at that moment for someone to say, I got it, like that. Those are the moments where you're looking for a little bit more,
Hi guys, Cedric Maxwell here. I want to take a minute to tell you about Marigold Medical. I'm used to keeping my body in great shape, but with arthritis, even the most simple everyday tasks became unbearable. As soon as I called Marigold Medical, I knew I was in good hands. No drugs, no surgery, just an experienced team of caring professionals that wanted to get me back to doing the things I love. Make the call to Marigold Medical and get back to pain-free life.